All right, folks, we are back. I'm happy to have Cheryl Prince today. Uh, you're going to love this interview. Now, this is part of our entrepreneurial perspectives, and you're going to hear it right from the mouth of an entrepreneur who's been very successful. She's an educator, she's a speaker. I mean, I'm just going to say that I loved your two presentations that you did at Brooklyn College, the first live presentations that we've had since COVID, talking about entrepreneurship. And at that point, I'm just going to say, Cheryl, hello. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Thank you for having me, Raja. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I am Cheryl Prince. I am an educator, author, entrepreneur, and speaker. I'm a 19-year veteran educator. I got my start with the Department of Education as a special ed teacher. And that work is near and dear to my heart because my brother is a student with special needs. But I found that the bureaucracy within the Department of Education just wasn't a good fit for me. So I
Mhm.
left my position as an assistant principal back in 2016, and I
Wow.
started contracting my services out to other agencies because I had the intention of starting my own agency. So I had to learn the ropes. And then in 2019, Elevated Youth was birthed. And this is where we are today.
This is a great story. And, I have heard about the bureaucracy in the DOE. And so that does not surprise me because an entrepreneur, really, you can't be held back. You can't kind of be put in a box, if you will, and say, told to like follow these little particular rules. So was part of the reason that you became an entrepreneur and you pursued this dream because you just felt like you had to serve a certain need, maybe fix something, maybe bring something to the attention? Tell us about what that motivating force was.
Absolutely. I had gotten every position that I wanted. I was a senior supervisor for special education. I was an assistant principal. I was a school improvement specialist, every position I wanted. And I just felt that within the confines of the system, I could not operate at my fullest potential. So I said, I need to do my own thing. And that way I don't have to be a puppet on a string because I don't have all of this experience and this education and this passion for our youth for me to be boxed in. And so that's why I gave birth to Elevated Youth, because I know that I can help youth achieve limitless possibilities by doing the things that I love to do.
I focused on that for a second because I think one of the things that we always talk about when we're talking to young entrepreneurs is what pushes you, what gives you that jump start to get started in something that you're dreaming about. Tell us about Elevated Youth. Tell us what the company is about and what your mission is and what you hope to accomplish with that.
All right. One of my favorite questions. But so basically, we help youth to reach limitless possibilities, right? There's no glass ceiling, there's no box, none of that. And how do we do that? We support school leaders by helping them to achieve their vision of maximizing outcomes for all learners. We curate creative and exploratory workshops that are focused on boosting student achievement, social emotional learning development, and then also cultivating student voice and leadership. So we have had the pleasure of working with countless school districts and school communities around doing just that work. Interactive read aloud workshops where we read aloud our best-selling children's book and help students to really discover what their superpower is, right? And what their gifts are that they can offer to the world. Then we have our creative writers workshops where our students become published authors and they just use their voice to impact change in our world. So that's what Elevated Youth is all about, just whole child development and just helping our babies to reach those limitless possibilities.
That's an incredible mission and that's an incredible task ahead for you. There's been a lot of change, and I'm going to focus. First, I'm going to mention that one of the biggest changes we've had in education, obviously, is this. As a result of the pandemic, we went online and we went on Zoom, and there were all sorts of challenges with that. In education, for instance, one of the things that's starting to come out, especially with regard to our school systems, is that the grading has, the the students have sort of lost something in the transition to digital and then this return to in person. So their grading scores have been lowered. There really are a lot of educational challenges, which is perfect for someone like you to come in and try to help bring those numbers back up. But you also mentioned books and publishing, and you are a quite an accomplished author. You have several books, right? On various subjects. Tell us how you got into publishing and how you help young people publish their books, and because that's part of your business, right? Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go back to this transition we've had in education.
Yes, absolutely. So as a child, I was an avid reader. I would go through several books a week, and reading allowed me to escape from my harsh reality. Like I didn't have the best home life. So reading and then writing allowed me to escape and express myself. So I use, writing to just release, and I know what it does for me. So I figured like, hey, I can help other people do that. And I had some experiences as a self-published author that I wouldn't want anyone to experience, where people took my money, did not provide the services that they promised. And I went through those experiences, all of those pitfalls, and I said, there has to be a way where I can help people on this journey to becoming published authors, and they wouldn't have to experience those pitfalls that I've experienced. So I do have another business, Noir Publishing House, and I help authors to pen, polish, publish, promote, and profit from their powerful stories. And I've been blessed to date to be able to work with almost 50 authors, and 22
Wow.
of those were students who are English as a new language learners, and they published an anthology back in June of this year called Overcoming Adversities. Well, Vivid Voices, Overcoming Adversities.
That's amazing. I mean, and this is another example of like identifying a problem and jumping in and saying, you know what, I'm going to fix this problem. I'm going to help fix this problem. But you're also giving a voice to these young people who probably would go through the same financial struggles trying to pay for someone to do something like this and not having the services delivered. So I think that's an admirable venture that you could sort of steered off into. Let's talk about education for a moment. So tell us about education. Tell us how education, um, can make me, with the help of people like you, sort of make a comeback. I think that's a very, very key and prominent problem that we have in this nation today, post pandemic. And we had it before, but really, really bad today.
Absolutely. There is a saying from the Maasai tribe, and it's Kasarian and Gera. I hope I pronounced it correctly, but it means how are the children? And we cannot unequivocally say that all the children are well. And that's the greeting that the Maasai had. They would say, how are the children? And the response would be that all the children are well. But all the
Mhm.
children are not well. Our babies lack proficiency in reading and math, skills that they'll need for the rest of their lives. And if they are not proficient by grade 3 or 4. Actually, in fourth grade, they use fourth grade test scores to determine how many new prisons to build, because there's a correlation
That
between
right?
that. Is absolutely
Wow.
right.
That's wow. That's first
Very
time I heard
too.
that. That's shocking and sad.
It is because the idea is that if they're not proficient in reading, then they won't get the high level jobs. Some will turn to a life of crime, and then we
Yeah.
need to have more prisons to be able to house them. So that public school to prison pipeline is real, and that's why I do the work that I do. And I also want schools and parents even to understand that children have multiple intelligences. A state test cannot measure all that they're able to do.
Mm.
And because they may not do well on the state test doesn't mean that they're not creative, that they're not artistic, that they're not writers, they're not poets, they're not entrepreneurs, they're not great thinkers. And so the work that I do, I feel that I help school leaders and district leaders to see that, hey, we have to tap into our children's creativity and also their multiple intelligences, build up their character and their confidence, and they'll be more successful, not just on the state exams, but in life in general.
That is so beautifully said, and I couldn't agree more about creativity and just this ability to express yourself in many different ways. Because yeah, we are a society where people come from different cultures, especially in a place like New York City, different cultures, different backgrounds, and we face challenges differently and solve problems differently, sometimes using creative channels that are not taught in any kind of a school setting. So that's a beautiful way to put it. I wonder if you've had the opportunity, because this is something that I think more importantly, the politicians need to, you know, take into account. I think they ignore a lot of that, and everything, like you said, gets stuck in this bureaucracy, which is counterproductive to our, the future of our children. Have you had the experience of maybe bringing to the political arena this kind of, information that would draw their attention?
I'm smiling because lately I have had a few opportunities to do just that. I was at a community breakfast hosted by one of the districts that I work closely with, and the elected officials were there. We had the council members, we had the Congress members or members of Congress, and then the borough president had a representative there. And I was able to connect with them and have conversations with them around like the state of emergency that we are in when it comes to our children. And then with the budget being cut, programs such as mine aren't at the top of the list for school leaders because they're more focused on the programs that are going to help push their test scores, but not knowing that working on honing students' writing skills, that's going to help with their academic achievement rates as well. But they see it as like, I don't want to say extracurricular, but there are other priority needs in their mind. So I've been able to get into the ears of the local officials and say like, hey, we need these programs in the school because not only are the students going to benefit, but their parents are going to benefit as well. This year, I have introduced not parent, family empowerment workshops. And that's basically to equip parents and families with skills that they can use in their day-to-day life, like financial literacy, telling their story, their why, knowing that going to college debt-free is an option. And I have had the opportunity to speak to a few elected officials, and they said, Cheryl, when our budget comes out in January, February, let's revisit this conversation. So I'm optimistic. I also got a chance recently to meet the chancellor, and we took a wonderful, beautiful picture or what have you. But I said, sir, I would love to speak with you further, and let this not be the first and last time that we meet. And I meant that. And then I'm also attending like town hall meetings and hearing what the needs of the community are and to see how I can support these school districts in meeting those needs. So yeah, I'm out here networking, connecting, and just being optimistic that we'll have some things change.
This is really eye-opening. I mean, this is an incredible thing because, I started the conversation talking about the test scores, and there's so much more to that. And I think that's an incredible eye-opening experience to hear it coming from you. Let's jump into the conversation at hand today for our young entrepreneurs. And now you've heard all these great things that are happening as a result of, Cheryl's entrepreneurial journey. But let's talk for a minute about the entrepreneurial journey that minorities have and how it differs from, people who maybe have more opportunity, more access to money. And give us your perspective and what, you mentioned a lot of great things at the talk at Brooklyn College. So maybe you can share some of that and tell us how these young students may be able to bypass some of these, obstructions or obstacles, if you will.
Absolutely. As you know, the journey of an entrepreneur is just like a roller coaster. But I feel that with being a minority, a Black woman, my journey has been almost two times as hard, right? Because it's like I have the race thing and then I have the gender, right? So I would say that first off, I didn't have any role models where they were entrepreneurs themselves. Like I didn't have someone, my granddad was an entrepreneur, but he never had the opportunity to sit down with me and tell me about his businesses. And I don't know how successful he was with them. I don't believe he was that successful with them. But some folks have it where they have, entrepreneurs in their family that can sit down with them, mentor them, can give them, seed money, that sort of thing. I didn't have that. I
Right.
just had a passion, an idea, and I knew that I wanted to bring it to fruition. So that's one thing. The other thing is starting out, you need funding, you need capital, or not even just starting out to run your business, period. And to grow and scale, you need money. And I didn't have that at my disposal. Like I couldn't go to my parents and say, hey, can you invest in my business? I couldn't go to any of my family members for that matter and say that. I had to use my savings. And then, like I shared in the talk at Brooklyn College, if your personal credit is not up to par, then getting business credit is going to be difficult for you. But thankfully, my personal credit was up to par. So I was able to leverage that in order to get my business credit. But imagine the folks who are struggling to build their personal credit, then they don't even have a chance of building business credit. And then even having the knowledge about how to build business credit, because initially I just thought I had to fund everything out of my bank account, out of my pocket. And that wasn't the case. Now I'm able to use my business credit cards, my business lines of credits and loans, knowing what product is best for me. That came from, I guess, exposure to the information. And that's not always readily available, I would say, to
Yes, I agree.
so I have been intentional about seeking the information, and then as I get a hold of that information, sharing that information with others. Some other things that I experienced were the mindset. That was a huge thing, the mindset, just knowing that I am able, that I'm not an imposter, that I can do the things that I set out to do, that someone needs my product or service, and that I start off small, but I'm going to scale and grow big, right? So that was another hurdle to overcome. And that's why I focus so much on building social emotional development in our youngsters because they need to have that growth mindset, right? Um, some other obstacles I faced were just,
Well, before we go to the obstacles, I want to just backtrack a little bit and point something out, which I think is key here. So your journey was you got yourself a job, right? You made money in that job, you saved money on that job, and then when you launched your business out of a passion to do it on your own and to do things without the bureaucracy of the DOE or whatever might be holding you back in a job, you then sought out information about how to build your credit and realize that you go through, you save money, you start little, you find a channel to help you do it bigger and better. So what I'm hearing is that you never really did that whole thing about I need somebody to fund my business, I need somebody to put money into my company and I give away equity. None of that, right? No, you just did it step by step, little by little until you got to where you got. That's incredible. And I think that's something that the students need to know about.
yes, absolutely. And as I shared at the talk at Brooklyn College, I contracted my services out to other agencies, and I was also working for my own agency. So at one time, I was working for two other agencies and for myself. My caseload was bananas. I worked from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. I would
Wow.
make 5 figures in a month, but it was a lot of sacrifice, giving up my time. But I did it because I wanted to learn the ropes. I wanted to have the income. I wanted to be able to, support myself and my business as it grew. And I didn't want to give away ownership or any, rights to my company that I was building. And I didn't even think of that as an option. But I just had to like really bootstrap it. And then, as you said, I used the money that I had saved. I didn't go and, work all of these years just to swindle my money away. I saved it. And it came in handy when I wasn't making the six figures. Because when I first started as an entrepreneur, I went from making six figures as an assistant principal to making $25,000 as an entrepreneur in the first few years. And
Yeah.
that was not a lot of money.
No.
And my bills didn't change.
Yeah, no, they don't. They stay the same, even if you cut back, right? I mean, you still have certain things like, rent and mortgages and, whatever that just, you can't just make magically go away. That's such an incredible story because I hear a lot of, young founders and entrepreneurs talk about, I have this great idea. Where do I get the money? And one place obviously is competitions, but that's only limited to what, you got to win, first of all, to get that money. And you're not usually going to get a tremendous amount. So that whole, journey becomes a little bit more challenging than doing something like what you did. You educated yourself about the credit system and you kept a very strong, focused, positive mindset. Because I remember you talked about that. And I think that's so important. Tell us how you managed to do that. Tell us how you managed to keep that mindset and tell us, where you went to learn all the things that you learned.
So I realized that what was holding me back was my limited thinking. Like, oh, this is just, a way to get some extra income. No, this is a business. This is a corporation. I have an S corp. This is a corporation. And then it's like at a point I saw people around me having success, and I'm like, well, I have more experience, more education. I have a passion. I'm just not in this for income. I'm in this for impact. So I said, I need to do things a little differently here. And the first thing was working on my mindset, getting out of that fixed mindset and operating with a growth mindset. Like, okay, I don't have the information now. I'm not making the six figures now, but eventually, what do I need to do to get to that point? And I'm an MWBE certified business, so I started leveraging that. They have a lot of like mentoring opportunities. They have webinars and workshops. So I would go on all of these workshops.
Let me stop you for a sec. Just would you tell the students and the people watching this what an NWBE certification is so they understand?
Yes, so that is Minority Women Business Enterprise, and that basically says that certain contracts you're going to have priority in those contracts. You have to get a certain when funding is allocated, like a certain amount is allocated for MWBE certified businesses. So those businesses are either owned by minorities and or by women. And as an MWBE, they provide you with, they have a directory. So folks who are looking for your business or a service that you provide, they can find you. Like I remember one time ACS called me like, hey, we have this program that we would love to partner with you around. And they found me because I'm an MWBE certified business. I recently went to the MWBE Expo at the Barclays Center, and they had all of the city agencies there. And you're able to talk to the city agencies about different procurement opportunities that are available. So being MWBE certified, that does help to circumvent some of these issues that minority business owners face, because to know that there's funding set aside for us, and then to know that there are services that will help us to grow as entrepreneurs and scale our business, that's a blessing.
Where can students find this MWBE? I know that we have a course that we're going to offer as part of our program at Brooklyn College with part of the Blackstone LaunchPad program. But let's say someone's watching this and they, I got to do this today. Where would you point them?
I would say go on Eventbrite. When I go on Eventbrite and I type in MWBE, all of the events come up, all of the webinars that are available. Several folks offer SBA, SBS, PTAC. PTAC is the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and they will actually like walk you through step by step on some of these things. SCORE offers it. Some nonprofits offer it. So just go on Eventbrite, put in MWBE, and then like follow those organizations that offer services around MWBE certification.
Thank you. That's such great advice. I want to touch upon this notion of having the right frame of mind, and I have to say that yeah, in general, a lot of younger people, especially young entrepreneurs and people who don't know what they want to do with their futures, have a sort of this. I don't want to call it a negative mindset, but not a positive mindset that that offers the opportunity for them to feel like they could do anything. Is that something that you find is very prominent in minority entrepreneurs? Is that something that you think um, needs more attention from people like us so that we can put them in the right frame of mind, and maybe describe some other obstacles that minorities face when thinking of launching a business or, taking an idea to the next level.
Yeah, I would say that I think mindset is like an individual issue. I wouldn't say is, just specifically to minority entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, period, but it's just an issue that individuals have. And I think it has a lot to do with their upbringing. So if you don't
Mm.
have someone talking to you about the fact that, you're powerful, that you're able to do anything that you put your mind to, helping you to build your skill set, helping you to believe in yourself, boost your confidence, then you have those insecurities and self-doubt. And then the world, to your point, I think sometimes the world is what the noise of the world is what drowns out, what we feel about ourselves. And then you're supposed to be a certain way because you're of a certain race or gender, ethnicity, or what have you. But that's why I do the work I do with kids, to help them to have that growth mindset. But I think that like programs such as your own, like to help students to have that growth mindset, just to get them to see what opportunities are out there. And then even if there are roadblocks, delayed does not mean denied, right? How are you going to get around those roadblocks? That's what I'm always thinking. Like right now, the budgets for New York City schools have been reduced significantly. But how am I getting around that? I'm connecting with local officials who, when they have discretionary funds, are going to keep me in mind, right? I also am starting a nonprofit foundation under Elevated Youth so that I can, do fundraise and get grants, and I can still provide the same services to the communities that I want to work with, but I will have the donations from the nonprofits to do so. So you have to always think about how to just circumvent some of these issues.
This is great. You are who you want to be, and I think that's such a great message. Some of the most surprising and really powerful entrepreneurs that I've met over the years are minorities, from and they come from places that surprise you. Some of them come from extreme poverty or very um very poor environments where they're not motivated to be much, and yet those seem to be sometimes the people who are most motivated because they come from that background. I think of Pitbull's, not just a musician or a rapper, a performer. I think of Magic Johnson. I think of, people like that who come from very diverse backgrounds, and yet you think of them as one thing and they're more than that. They're, they own businesses, they own gyms, they own, they're involved in a lot of things. That something that you see in a lot of students, this ability to do not just one thing. So for those out there who are thinking one thing, really this ability to do many things like you're doing.
Absolutely. And you said a lot there in terms of having that hunger. You have to
Hmm.
have that hunger and that thirst. And some people have literally been hungry and thirsty. So they know what it
Yeah.
is to not have. And
Yeah.
I know what it is to not have.
Yeah.
So it's like I have that drive and that motivation because of those humble beginnings, right? From my childhood. And I want to be able to provide my children and their children's children with much more than I've had. So I am focused on building generational wealth and leaving a legacy, whatever it takes. So that's why I wear many hats. I am an educator, I'm an entrepreneur, author, speaker. I do those things because I am passionate about it. Also because I'm looking to set my future generations up for success. And to your point about Magic Johnson and Pitbull and others, it's like, why do one thing when you can do many things and you can do it well?
Yeah.
And if your business is solving a problem, especially, then why not? You don't have to be boxed in. And my issue was that I had fractured focus at times. So I was trying to grow and scale several businesses at once. And then I learned like, okay, you need to kind of focus on the one and then do a little for the other, little by little.
Yeah.
And then once you get one automated and running like clockwork, then you can start putting more energy and attention into the other one.
You said something too that comes up a lot in conversations about with young entrepreneurs and founders, and that is the importance of having support, not monetary support necessarily, but to tap into the talents of other people who help you build your business, not try to do it on your own.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that and what you've learned in terms of that, and what advice you would give in terms of that.
Oh, yes.
That's a
I
lot. I'm sorry.
yes, I thought that I had to do it all by myself. You're the CEO, you're the founder. This is your vision, this is your baby, this is your passion. It all falls on your shoulders. However, in order for me to have the impact that I want, then I need a team. And that's what I'm working on currently, building a team of like-minded individuals who subscribe to the mission and vision of Elevated Youth and are just as equally passionate about the work that I do as I am, right? And we cannot operate inside of a vacuum or a cocoon. We need community, right? We need to be around like-minded people who are on the same wavelength. Like I am part of a mastermind, and these are extraordinary entrepreneurs, 6, 7, 8 figures, right? Who I aspire to be like. And I've seen them start small and grow in scale. So just seeing that firsthand lets me know that it's possible for me as well, because I didn't think it was possible in my field, like education. I'm like, oh, I'll make 6 figures, but I know personally people who are in the education sector and they're making 8 figures teaching people how to start their own childcare business. So it is important to really surround yourself with people that are climbing and that are not afraid to, pull people up with them, because I believe in collaboration over
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be a part of those communities and then be that person too. Like for me, even as I'm climbing, I'm helping other people. Like I know people who are in the beginning stages and I've gone through some things and I can offer advice to them. I can offer resources to them. I invite them to networking events with me. And that's what it's all about.
That's incredible. And and so true. It's so very true. And you phrase it in such a great, clear way. I wanted to, as we close this interview, I wanted to give you the opportunity. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Three pieces of advice that you would give to any young aspiring entrepreneur or founder with an idea or a venture in mind.
Oh, that's a good one.
Told
um,
you I was going to put you on the spot.
I would say definitely, first and foremost, check in with yourself, right? What is your why? Because if you're just looking to make money, then that doesn't, that it can happen, not to say it can't happen, but then you may lose the passion when the funds are gone, right? I would say that your business has to solve a problem. So your why has to be connected to some solution that you're providing to solve a problem. And maybe it might be personal. Like for me, I am an educator because my brother was a student with special needs and received a subpar educational experience, and I refuse to let that happen on my watch. So make sure that your why, that you know your why, and then that is greater than income. It's about impact. So that's the first thing.
I love it.
The second thing would be get your mind right.
Yes.
Okay, get your mind right. Know that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to have that growth mindset and know that, like, when you have those humps and bumps and, those hurdles or what have you, you have to figure out how to circumvent it, how to get around it, and persist. And again, delayed does not mean denied. And because it's not happening right now, doesn't mean that it won't happen in the near future, but you have to put the work in. It's not going to happen just because you have the idea. When you have to execute it, right? So get your mind right. And then the last thing I would say is that execute.
Yeah.
Execute. You have to
Do it.
execute. You do, because it's
Yeah.
like some people are visionaries, they're great thinkers. But then it's like if you don't put any action behind those thoughts, those ideas, then it stays on the ground level. And you have to be disciplined around your execution. So for me, like I will put on my do not disturb if I'm focused on the task. I always, plan my day, plan my week, so I know exactly what I want to accomplish. I have accountability and support from other entrepreneurs, other educators. And I'm still working on time management, but I try to use like I
We
forget the
all are.
yes. I forget the name of the method, but basically you can do like 90-minute sprints. So you have 90 minutes of uninterrupted time to work
Yes.
on a task. So those would be the three pieces of advice I would give. Make sure that you know your why, and that is a solution to a problem. Also, make sure that you have your mindset in order. That is a growth mindset, and that you're always thinking of ways to overcome whatever obstacles are in your way. And last but not least, execute. Don't just be a visionary, execute and execute with excellence.
Oh, I love that extra little E over there. Execute with excellence. That's a t-shirt, so that's a or a sign in your office. I love it. I thank you. This has been an incredible perspective coming from an entrepreneur who's illustrating not just success, but really serving many needs in the community and helping people out. And I think that's probably the greatest, gift you can give to us is this ability to help people and help them achieve their dreams. So for that, we thank you. For the folks who are out there, Sheryl, what's the best way to reach you or contact you or get in touch with you?
So I am on Instagram at Elevated with the D, Elevated Youth Inc. INC. And yeah, Instagram. And then also we have the website elevatedyouth.inc.com. But Instagram, we're pretty active there.
Well, I thank you again. I think you've given us a really, good bit of information here for our young people and for the folks out there. We're going to have interviews like this, hopefully as good as this, throughout the, semester. And please do reach out to Sheryl or any of the folks that we've interviewed and just, start, execute with excellence and get your why together and just really put it all together and start doing what you're dreaming of doing. Sheryl, thank you very much again. We look forward to seeing you again at Brooklyn College with some more workshops and anywhere else that you go. So for those of you who are interested, reach out. I'm sure you'll hear more about where to find Sheryl and her presentations and her work and things like that. Thank you, Sheryl. It was great to have you on the show.
Thanks again for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to more opportunities.
Absolutely.